Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to the video, welcome to my garage. I'm in the middle of working on the fiberglass one-piece front end for Ratchet. I've got the front end here. Ratchet's got a blanket thrown over him to keep him as clean as possible while I'm sanding on this. But this has been taking me several weeks. I figure while I'm in between waiting for some of these coats to dry, I'm gonna take a little bit of time and do a little video showing some of the tools that I use in my shop. Now there's tools that you can buy for your shop that are really expensive. You can spend $20,000 and you get a CNC plasma table. I don't have any tools like that. So this video is gonna be, for the most part, about hand tools. And what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna try to not bog you down with minimal stuff. Like I'm not gonna show you ratchets or anything like that. But I'm going to show you the tools that I use for the most part doing metal fabrication, primarily. And there's a couple tools that I'm gonna call game changers. And I'm going to highlight those as well, just because I think some tools are worth a little bit more of your time than other tools. So I want to note those tools that I think save you a significant amount of time. So for starters, let's talk about cutting metal. First and foremost, I've got a bandsaw. I've had this bandsaw for probably 20 years at this point. These are a really good investment. These make extremely straight cuts, and if you're making big cuts, you can set your piece of metal up in here and start the cut and you can walk away. So I highly recommend, if you can, to get yourself a little bandsaw like this. You're also going to want to have some grinders. What I do is I've got two 4-inch grinders, just because usually I have one set up with a cutoff wheel and one set up with a flapper wheel. That's just the way I like to run it. If I have to mix them up, so be it, but this way, as I'm swapping between the two, I don't always have to swap the discs if I have a grinder set up for each. I've got a nice little grinding station set up here. I can pull these, I can plug into the wall right here. Usually I'll step outside the garage to do the grinding. If it's really cold out, sometimes I'll do the grinding right here over a bucket. Or sometimes I've got another little bucket set up on the loft so I can do some grinding up there. But for the most part, this is my grinding station. I also have a large 7-inch grinder that I don't use very often, but in rare occasions I do. I use that so infrequently, I wouldn't recommend it's something that you chase down. I really don't use this very often. I also down here have a little Turbo Torch plasma cutter. If you guys have seen a lot of my videos cutting control arm, upper and lower plates, I usually do it with this. This is just a hand operated plasma cutter. It's 110 volt. It's good up to 1/8 inch. It won't really do any thicker than that. But if I'm doing complex cuts, a little 110 plasma cutter is pretty helpful. All right, I've also got what they call a power shear, and this looks like a drill. You got to plug it in. But the head here has, these two pieces here are stationary, and this piece in the middle, when you pull the trigger, works its way up and down like a shear, and then you can run it right through metal, and this'll do up to, it'll easily do 14 gauge. I don't think you could go as far as 12, but in certain applications, this actually is a really good tool for cutting metal. A lot of times I'll use this to cut the metal really close to the size that I need, and then I'll get better tools to get a little bit more of an accurate cut for the last cut, but I'll use this to quickly get me where I need to be. Then I have what I call a bench hand shear. And this is a tool that you just pull down the lever here, and it's like a big old heavy-duty pair of scissors. This tool, I think I paid like $100 and some odd bucks for this. I probably bought this 15 years ago, a long time ago. This one I would call a game changer. I use this tool a lot when I'm making tabs and smaller things. It quickly becomes useless if you're trying to cut something larger, but this will cut 1/8 inch. You can cut a piece of 1/8 inch like 3-4 inches long with this, no problem. So if you're making some smaller tabs, this thing is great. It will really save you some time. Then I have my Evo Tools chop saw. And this is a chop saw that is meant specifically for cutting metal. I got this back when I started building the Ratchet chassis because I knew I was going to be making a lot of cuts tubing, and I wanted them to be clean and accurate. And this saw makes clean, quick, and accurate cuts. So whenever I'm doing things where I'm cutting tubing, this is usually the saw that I use, and the miter gauge is real easy to set up. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll cut my miter first with this saw, and then I'll clean it up with the grinder to get the actual cope out of there. A lot of you guys are going to start with an abrasive chop saw like this. That's exactly what I did. You can buy these at Home Depot. They're not too expensive. You can do a lot with these, but these won't really give you the straightest cuts in the world, and they make one hell of a mess. So I ran with this saw for years and years and years. This saw did a lot of good work for me, but at a certain point, I graduated past that saw to this saw, and as you can see, this saw is set up ready to go because this is the saw I use all the time. The chop saw over there, it's just one of those things where I'm not going to throw it out, but it really doesn't get used anymore. The next tool is another Evo Tools, but this tool is a handheld metal cutoff saw. And this saw is a game changer. I got interested in this saw when I was making the skid plates for Ratchet. That was 1/8 inch metal, and like most people, what I had been getting by with thus far was just using regular circular saws and just kind of working your way through aluminum as much as you can. You know, it works, but it doesn't work really, really well. When I was doing Ratchet, that was 1/8 inch, and I tried using my circular saw, and it didn't work. I ended up cutting all the skid plates for Ratchet with a jigsaw, which took a lot of time. In the meantime, after that, I got an Evo handsaw, and this thing is a game changer. This thing goes through metal like butter. I'll show a clip right here of me cutting some 1/4 inch and some 1/8 inch. And this thing, it is accurate, and it'll go like, it did that 1/4 inch, no problem whatsoever. So as long as a saw like this, it's under $200. I'll put a link to this in the description. As a matter of fact, in the description, I'll try to put a link to most of the tools that I'm showing here, just to give you guys an idea of what these things cost, or if you're looking to get some yourself, you've got a starting point. But this saw, for around $200, this thing will cut a lot of metal, and it will cut big metal. You can go to the steel shop and buy a 4x8 sheet of metal, and you're not going to be able to cut that in your bandsaw. You're not going to be able to cut that with your chop saw, but you can cut it with this. You can lay that metal out on horses, and you can use this saw to rip it to the pieces that you need. And if you're doing straight cuts, I'm going to use this way before I use the plasma cutter, because this leaves you with a straight, clean cut that's ready to go. So this saw is one of the game changers for sure. Then of course I've got my welders. Here I've got a Miller 220 volt welder. This one will go up to 3/8 inch. This is actually a really powerful welder. It's been pretty good. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you I love this welder. I like this welder. I'm not in love with it. I can't even tell you exactly why. I don't really know. I like this welder, but it's not the greatest welder I've ever used in the world. Then we come over here, and I've got it covered up, but this is a Lincoln Electric TIG welder. I bought this dog probably 20 years ago. I bought this a long time ago. It's 220 volt. It'll go up to 175 amps, and it is high frequency, so I can do aluminum with it. It doesn't do pulsed or anything like that. It's kind of a basic welder, but a 220 volt welder that goes up to 175 amps, there's a lot that you can do with that. And then down in the basement, I've got an old Lincoln Electric flux core welder, which I used primarily before I got the Miller MIG welder. And although I don't use the flux anymore, as soon as you get a MIG, you don't need the flux. But before I had the MIG, that flux core welder was really good. So don't discredit those things. Those things are worth their weight in gold. Now we're coming to two tools which work hand in hand with each other. I'm talking about the bench press and the drill press. These two tools, I use them hand in hand. Like, I don't know what to say with these. I use these tools constantly. If I'm making a hole in something, I'll usually punch it first, and then I drill it with the drill press. These tools are priceless. First of all, this punch here, I bought this also like 15, 20 years ago. I'm an old man. I'm coming up on 50 years old. A lot of these tools I was buying right out of high school. This tool I think I did one video, maybe I'll see if I can put a link to it, where I showed just this punch. I don't know if I'll find a link to this, but if I can, I'll put it in the description. This is just a really powerful hand punch. I can easily punch 3/16 with this thing. I punch 3/16 with it all the time. It's pretty easy to replace the dies. The best thing about it is it makes really, really accurate holes. The punches have a little bump right in the middle. So if you take a piece of metal and you put a little prick mark, then you can find that prick mark with the tip of the punch, and it centers it perfectly. And then you punch your hole with this thing, and then you take it over, and of course it's real easy then, just with the right size drill bit, to make that hole to the exact size that you need. But that punch just gets that first hole in there perfectly in position. So that tool is a game changer for sure. I would say the drill press is too, but this is a tool that you don't see a lot of these around, and it kind of surprises me because I use it so much. It's indispensable. And then while we're up here on the loft, I've got your run-of-the-mill Harbor Freight press. And this tool, actually, I bought it purposely when I was working on some motorcycles and I needed to press some bearings out. But I actually use this tool quite a bit, even sometimes just for flattening out pieces of metal. I'll smash them in there. I know that you can get little brakes to put in there, and I'll probably get one of those. I think that would be really useful. So this tool, it kind of surprised me how much I end up using this. And then over here, of course, we've got the JD Squared. This is the JD Squared Model 3 bender. This, I mean, you can't really be bending tube for a chassis without having a tool like this. JD Squared's been around for a long time. This is kind of expensive up front, but once you have it, you're pretty much going to have it forever. I did do the the air over hydraulic cylinder to make it, basically, the reason that I did that is if you have the cylinder kit, you don't have to have the bender secured to the floor. I've just got it on a little cart here where I can, when I need it, I just roll it out to the middle of the loft here and I work on it. And if you don't have the cylinder, then when you're doing it by hand, you have to have this bolted down because it tries to twist on you. If you have the cylinder kit, it doesn't twist on itself. So, you know, I went ahead and got the cylinder, and the cylinders worked out really well. So this is I would say an invaluable tool for bending tube. And then over here, I've got this handbrake. This handbrake is really goofy. I have another love-hate relationship, just like with my Miller welder. I have a love-hate relationship with this brake. The reason that I love it is when I use it to break metal, I couldn't break the metal any other way. So it does things for me that I couldn't do without it. The thing that I don't like about it is the way you clamp it down, you've got to clamp on either side, and the clamps are really, really sloppy. Now, to the company's credit, they did that on purpose because it makes it so that you can lift the pieces up really high. You can see they really go up high. That's a big advantage in some situations because it allows you to push really weird shapes or up to like 2-inch flanges through that, which on a brake is really helpful. But the downside is when you're clamping metal in here, it's really hard with these two clamps to adjust it to the proper pressure, and then you also have to adjust it back here to the depth. And because these are such sloppy clamps, it becomes really difficult to make sure that you're getting accurately on the line. So it's actually a really good brake, but I'm not gonna lie to you, I have a love-hate relationship with it. Then to go along with the handbrake, I have one of these. I mean, I don't even know what the hell do you call this? I guess it's a handbrake. It's a handbrake also. I got this off of Amazon, I think. It's not very expensive. It's not the greatest quality. It's not real high quality. But I'm not gonna lie to you, this thing has really, really helped me. There's a lot that you can do with this thing. what you do is you put your metal in here, like something like this, and then when you pull this around, it bends it. And you can see there's so many different things that you can do with it. You can move whatever you're using to bend it, you can move it all the way out here, so there's a lot of adjustment. Same thing with the die over here that holds it on the back side. A lot of adjustments you can make there. And it comes with lots of different dies that you can put wherever you want. You can put it in the center to change your radius. You can put it out here. So it's kind of a goofy tool, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I do a lot with this thing, especially when I'm making tabs and the inside pieces for the upper and lower control arms. This actually is a really valuable tool. And then I've got a couple of bench sanders over here. This one is the most valuable. This is the disc sander, and you can see this is a really big disc. It's got a nice clean surface. So if you're trying to finish up some edges, this thing right here will really get a lot of work done. And it makes if you're radiusing edges on tabs or something, this thing does a really nice job of that. So that's a nice tool. I've got this little tiny, this is probably more of a woodworking tool, but I'll be honest with you, I use this little tiny disc the same way I use this one. It's just when I'm doing little tiny radiuses and I don't want the big bite of that one, I'll use this. It's really tiny, but for little smaller pieces, this works really well. Sometimes I use this for the same thing, but for the most part, this whole tool is just for this little tiny disc sander. And then this drum sander, again, this is a woodworking tool which I am using for the wrong purpose, and for the most part use it for wood. I don't use it a lot because it doesn't really have the power for metal, but in the rare situations where I do need to use it, this thing, it pulls its weight when you need to. It's one of those tools where I'll go months without using it, but when I do need it, it's actually quite valuable. And then some of you know I've got this CNC plasma cutter or plasma table, which I made myself. I used it a little bit on ratchet for some of the control arms. Since then I've kind of given up on it, but I'm gonna come back to this and get this going a little bit better. Right now it's got this tower that runs the CNC part, and then it's got a fairly heavy duty 220 volt plasma cutter down there. And as it is right now, it does work, it's operational, but it's got some serious bugs that need to be fixed, both on the software side and on the hardware side. So when I really got rolling on ratchet, I kind of stopped on this, but I think this year I'll put a little more attention to this and get it going so that I can use it more on a regular basis. All right, I've got one more tool to show you, and then we'll be done. This tool that I'm going to show you, you're going to think is really kind of weird, but when I explain to you some of the features that it has, you're going to be like, oh, wait a minute, that is actually kind of cool. So the last tool is a fan. It's just a fan, but here's the thing. If you've watched my videos before, you'll notice I'm a big fan of fans, and that's because I don't like wearing masks. You'll see in my videos, when I have to wear a mask, I wear a mask because I don't want to hurt myself. But if I can get away with not having to wear a mask, if I have a fan, then you'll see me having fans set up in the background, either blowing fresh air on me, or sometimes I have them pulling the contaminated air away from me. So usually I've got actually 4 box fans in this garage that I'll use from time to time. But they're the old school box fans that you have to plug in. So you're fairly limited by them. So I found this fan. This is a cordless fan. There's no cord, okay? There's no cord on this fan, and it's pretty small and it's pretty light. So you can carry this fan around with you, which I have been. I've had this for about 4 weeks at this point. And you can carry it around. and use it for whatever you want. It's, first of all, like I said, it's brushless. It's lithium. So in here is a lithium battery, which is really cool. What's even cooler is it has a brushless motor. It's not brushed. It has a brushless motor. So when you turn it on, if you guys can see here, it's variable speed, like infinitely variable speed. When you turn it on, first of all, it tells you with these LEDs how charged your battery is, which is cool, and that always stays on. So whenever it's running, it's telling you how charged the battery is. And then it's infinitely adjustable. So you set it to whatever you want, and it goes to that speed. Now, you're thinking, it's battery, it's cordless, how long does it last? Well, according to them, at full speed, it lasts 3 hours, which you're thinking that doesn't sound like very long, but at the slower speeds, it lasts like, I think they said 30 hours. I mean, that seems pretty long, but I've used it at the lower speeds for hours and hours, and it does not suck the battery down very far. So I've really enjoyed this fan. I've used it when I'm working on that fiberglass just to give myself a nice breeze going across. I've used it on things when I just want to dry them off a little bit. Of course, I'll put a link in the description to this, and I know you're thinking, dude, it's just a fan, relax. But I like lithium powered stuff, I like brushless stuff. This has both of them, and it's been a fan that I can just easily take around wherever I have to. Before, I would have to decide in my head, well, I want to set up a fan, but I got to set this box fan up on something, and I've got to run an extension cord to it and all that stuff. This thing being cordless, I find myself just grabbing it all the time, carrying it around and moving it around. So, I don't know, I thought that was pretty cool. So that's it, guys. That's probably the bulk of my tools. Obviously, I have a lot of hand tools, cordless drills, ratchets, the regular stuff. If you listen to me, I told you a lot of the stuff's 20 years old. To give you an example, that drill press I showed you, I got that for my high school graduation. Like, that's what a dork I am. When my parents asked me, what do you want for graduation? I said a drill press. Seriously, that is straight truth. They said, what do you want? I said, I want a drill press. So they bought me that Craftsman drill press. I still have it to this day. Some of these tools I've inherited from people. That's just, the thing about tools is, if you, for the most part, take care of them, you're always just getting more and more and more. Just try to keep them clean and keep them organized and keep them out of the elements. And for the most part, as you get older and older and older, you'll just find yourself having more and more and more tools. So anyways, that's it, guys. I just wanted to show you a little bit of a recap of some of the tools I use. A lot of people ask me in the comments what this is, what that is. I was just trying to capture as much as I could, and then in the description, I'll probably try to list as much as I can. If you have any specific questions, just hit me up. I'll help you out if I can. So thanks for watching the video, guys. I am in the middle of working on the fiberglass front end. That's a big video. It's going to encompass probably 4 or 5 weeks worth of work. So you probably won't see that video for another week or two. Thanks for watching the video. I hope to see you on the next one. Take care.